Welcome back to the Self-Care Creative Podcast, the show where I discuss everything from mental health over personal growth to creative struggles. I'm Ray, and I hope you will join me while I go down rabbit holes and interview other creatives on here. Follow and review the podcast to support the show, and let's get into today's episode. Hi, I have this really successful post. I think it's the most successful post on my blog, which is linked in the show notes, that is about how to get your life together. And I think that says a lot about how chaotic we are as humans, physically and mentally. And I thought I would make a podcast inspired by that post to be able to elaborate more on the points in it. And if you want to check it out yourself, in case you want to skim it while listening to the episode, I also linked that in the show notes. But let's get into it. The first thing that I will always tell anyone that wants to get their life together is to clean your space and to declutter. The first part of getting your life together is starting with a blank slate. In this case, you should really get to work and study your space, clean it, and if you own too much stuff, you should declutter, of course. I feel like a lot of people humans are collectors, and I feel like we need to declutter regularly. I am more on the minimalist side. When 2016, 2017, I decluttered a lot of things. I own half as many things as back then. And since then, I also had several new things. And now I feel recently, in the recent months, I feel like I have to declutter again. So if you feel that way, you should maybe declutter too. I personally love decluttering, honestly. There's nothing better than letting go of something. That has such a liberating feeling to it. And since we change so fast as humans, it is often the case that we suddenly don't, for example, we don't have a hobby anymore, we don't connect to pieces of clothing or books the same way, and I have stuff that I have only for a few months that I already don't like anymore, for example. So there's nothing wrong with giving that away again. I mean, of course you shouldn't throw away relatively new stuff, but yeah, declutter that stuff. Also, sort your paperwork. Please, it's gonna be great for your future self. Always try to do things with your future self in mind. Digitize paperwork, organize paperwork, anything like that. That is so important, and I feel like a lot of people overlook it because they just put paperwork into a folder, a file, and that's it for them. And then they open that later and it's fully unorganized. So yeah, maybe try to improve with your paperwork, because I know from myself that I had to reorganize my entire system several times because I never had the right system and it was confusing as hell. Number 2, write down all your feelings and thoughts. We're still at the point of clearing the slate, cleaning the state, creating a clean state. You know what I mean. In your head, there are probably a lot of thoughts, emotions, problems, and I don't know, just generally a lot of chaos. Put it from your brain onto paper or, a digital document, a Google document. And just clear your entire head. It does not have to make sense what you write down. If it's just your feelings and your thoughts for now. That you can write the most positive sentence and then the most depressing sentence right after. It's okay. It can't also be any length. If you don't have that much on your mind, which usually when you want to get your life together, you have a lot on your mind. It can be 2 pages, 20 pages. It's called stream of consciousness writing. You can look that up. It's just what it sounds like. Stream of consciousness. Brain to paper or brain to keyboard, whatever. Journaling in general, you will always hear me mention this on here, but journaling in general is a good way to let your mental health improve. I don't know, you get to know yourself better, and if you get to know yourself better, you can reconnect to yourself easier when you're in a state of distress or anything like that. So writing is always good, and especially when you have your head full of thoughts, it's good to write them down so you don't have to hold on to them in your head. You just can reference them later on a piece of paper, and you can look exactly which thoughts are reoccurring, and you can specifically look up ways to work on those things. But for now, it's just to create a clean slate and your head for this whole declutter and get your life together thing. Number 3, sort out your digital life. We did our physical space and we did our mental space, but the digital space is ignored a lot of times, even though we're on it almost a third of the time every day that we're awake. I mean, at least in my generation. And that just does a lot to your mental health. It does a lot to your brain and makes you overthink. It gives you emotions, of course, to scroll through the social media or it's also not really nice to scroll through all your pictures on your phone when they're not organized. But yeah, I feel the most important part though is sorting out your social media accounts, who you follow, and especially on Instagram, we now have the save function for 2 or 3 years now. And I don't know how much stuff I saved that I never look at again. You can sort that out. You can use functions that the apps have themselves to organize stuff better, update your biographies, mute accounts, mute stories, which I feel is such a crucial point. Just muting the stories of other people saves so much time. Improve your privacy settings. I think that's also very important. That's more a logical thing, but I feel we all have that in the back of our minds oh yeah, I need to improve my privacy settings everywhere, so Google and stuff is not spying on me. So do that. Put off the stuff at there's a Google page where you can disable that Google knows everything about you. I don't know what the page is, but you can do that. Of course, sort your pictures in your picture album on your phone. In my case, that's pretty much impossible because I have a Google Pixel and they're just automatically I don't know, they're while they are on the phone, they're saved in folders, but once they're backed up, they aren't anymore. I mean, they're still in the folders that I can only create folders in the app itself, but they're not saved in the way that they were when how you have folders for apps. Yeah, those are gone then. I need to sort them differently in specific folders that both on my phone and on the app itself, on the cloud itself. It's weird. I don't understand why it is that way, but it is that way. So figure out a system. If you have stuff that's equally as weird as my Google stuff, then figure that out. That's gonna save you a lot of time in the future too. Also, digital space also includes your computer, your desktop. I, for example, recently took a hard drive and put all my old videos for YouTube on there and deleted them from my computer, and that cleared up a lot of space. Updating passwords is also a good idea. Deleting games that you don't play from your computer. Having if you don't already have a good filing system for your computer itself, start doing that. Stuff like that is more important than we think. It's also stop naming your files things that don't make sense. You want to find them again, name them the right thing. I only don't care when I save stuff for from Tumblr or Pinterest that is just for aesthetic, for vision boards and stuff. But other than that, please name your files. You need to find that again. If you have a good filing system, you will find it anyway, but even then you're you kind of want to know what file you're clicking on. Anyway, just that's a part of a clean slate. To not be confused. Less you save time in the future. That's also a future self thing. Do stuff for your future self. Also, back to social media for a second. It's very important if you're have mental health problems to follow more pages that are positive and give you good reminders. I like to recommend my own Twitter account and my Instagram. My Instagram is full of self-care, mental health stuff, and my Twitter is I have a daily tweet scheduled that is either funny or just a little bit ranty, like this podcast, but in a good way, you know what I mean? Or it's just a mental health reminder. It's very similar to this podcast, just in tweet form, honestly. Then number 4, write down any task that comes to your mind. We already wrote down all the emotions in our little journaling session, and now we can do a brain dump. Yes, that it's what it sounds like. You take like a dump from your brain. It's a brain dump. It makes sense to me that it's called like that. You make a long or even a short list. I don't know how many like things you have like on your mind that you need to do, but like write anything down. Big projects, small things that you keep procrastinating. I don't know, like it could be as small as like, oh, I need to update my grocery list. Or like, oh yeah, I need to like clean this very specific thing in the house that I keep procrastinating. And it can be as big as, I don't know, plan out my book. Who knows? Like, just write all of that down. There is a trigger list for this stuff, for like brain dumps. You can Google like trigger list brain dump or getting things done trigger list, because that's usually the one that I use to like have like triggers that make you think about stuff that you might not think about otherwise to put on that list. It's very helpful. And once you wrote down everything, I would like you to categorize the things that you wrote down into, categories as in like what life area they belong to, but also into the Eisenhower matrix. You can look that up if you want, but I'm gonna explain it to you in short. It's like 4 fields, 2 top fields, 2 bottom fields. The first field is urgent and important. Those are things that need to be done very soon or first. Then there's non-urgent and important, which needs to be scheduled. There's urgent but not important, that can be delegated, or other people can also just schedule it because you might not have someone to delegate it to. And the last one is non-urgent and non-important. That can be put into like a list for later, or you can delete that task because it's not that important. It really depends. But sorting stuff in that matrix is like very helpful because you know what to do first. And if you want to procrastinate one of the very, very important urgent things, you can do something like non-urgent and important. You know, I like to do it that way. I don't know this. I know that's not the way it's supposed to be done now, but I use it like that. Number 5 is a thing that is very much not normal in lists like this, like how to get your life together list, but write a message or a letter to your friends, like to several friends or acquaintances if you don't have that many friends. Because often when we feel stuck, there's like we often like didn't fulfill the need to socialize or just connection, be heard, you know, all that stuff. So I would suggest like writing messages to your friends, writing them letters, like just making them feel like you're thinking of them, because that will ultimately come back to you in like love and attention and connection. And it's just a nice thing to do. Like doing kind things to other people makes you feel good. And you do, of course, you do like the kind thing up from the bottom of your heart because you're already friends with that person. You can also go like into your problems that you have in messages or letters and ask for advice if you need that right now or anything like that. Also, writing letters is really just like very relaxing. So like it's a good self-care thing on top of that. So you might want to do that. Then number 6. Work out and eat something healthy. It's a good reset, honestly. Like just doing a workout and then eating something like mindfully eating something healthy. Okay. We German. Like eating something good and doing good to your body is like a reset to the system. First of all, we both know, even if you don't like working out, we both know it feels good once you're done. So do it. It's a good way to reset. It's a good way to get your mind going into a more positive direction, which is why it's a good way to get your life together. Like a good task for that. You could also just go for a long walk, but like healthy food. Just feed yourself healthy food. Drink a lot. I mean, that should kind of be like basic, but you know what I mean. But yeah, be good to your body because that also needs a little reset. Number 7. Make your appointments for the next 6 months. I know a lot of you probably don't like planning that much. I don't know if I like planning all the time, but this one is a good example. Do things for your future self. Once again, schedule appointments for blood work, dentist, optician, but also like appointments like as in like meetings with your friends. Cool stuff to do, like getting outside of your comfort zone. Like I don't know, maybe you schedule like a little adventure, or like I don't know. I've recently been looking up skydiving, even though I'm like terrified of it. I kind of want to do it. Stuff like that. Like if you're someone that really wants to get outside of their comfort zone, and like in the next couple months, maybe like try to include stuff like that too. But just scheduling, especially like doctor's appointments. because they're so annoying to me. It's just, yeah, just do that, please. But your future self will be just like, I'm annoyed at the maybe when the appointment is set, but like at least I have one, you know? Because then even if you need to change the appointment to a different date, you made it. Those were my 7 main steps to how to get your life together. It's surface level tips that I give to pretty much everyone. But if you want to go a little bit more in depth, you can check out the full workbook that I made on this topic. I put a lot of prompts, tips, resources into that book. I mean, it's a workbook, of course. You're gonna have a lot of worksheets in there. They're fun. I like doing them semi-regularly because they're very helpful to like get some clarity. And I made it after like getting unstuck myself with all the things that I've learned and then that I put into the workbook, especially after like my whole mental health journey that I went to a little bit in recent episodes. And it will be the first link in the show notes. You can check that out. And I also have a freebie with like 90 journaling prompts, if that is something you fancy. Journaling prompts for clarity, for self-improvement, however you want to call it. And let me know if you'll do some of the things that I mentioned today on the podcast. The social media channels for the podcast and for myself, Ray, will be linked in the show notes. And rate the podcast if you haven't already, follow it if you haven't already. And until next episode, stay safe and self-care. Bye!